So this workshop today is about two things. It's about looking at how we can use yoga to lessen the effects of anxiety and to boost our chances of going to sleep. Notice how I'm using very kind of like very loose words there. I'm not saying guarantee this or 100% that or, instant results or anything like that, because I think that those things of their own, and I see a lot of this. When I was researching doing this workshop months ago, I was quite horrified at seeing a lot of my yoga compatriots who teach yoga doing these sort of things and going, guaranteed this, 100% that, boost this and make this better. And it's like, ooh, I wouldn't want that kind of pressure on me if it was me to lower my anxiety or boost my sleep. Now, I've suffered from anxiety for kind of like quite huge chunks of my life. So I know the aspects of kind of like how that, especially built in with sleep, that you lay down and all of a sudden your head's buzzing with stuff. It's like, what's that next thing? What's that other thing? What's that thing that I did today? What did that look on that person's face mean? Did I do this? Did I switch that other thing off? And I know how that can build into making it very hard to go to sleep. The other thing that I've sort of played with a lot is that I don't tend to sleep that much, maybe 4 hours or so a night. But I've learned, because I don't feel like I suffer from insomnia, I've learned how to kind of deepen those 4 hours so I get actual kind of best 4 hours that I can possibly get. And so I kind of like wake up feeling like I've had 8 hours sleep, even though I've only had 4, and I feel like I can function during the day. Human beings want about 8 hours sleep, seems to be kind of like what we want. On the whole, there's some people who can do them 3 or 4. There's some people who need 10 to 12. We're all very different. First thing I think is important with sleep is knowing what is your sleep pattern naturally. If you went on holiday or you have time off work or you're retired or you're not even at work yet, you're at college or whatever, what is your normal sleep pattern? What does it feel like is normal for you? If you go to bed at this time, if you could go to bed at any time, what time would it be? If you could wake up at any time, what would it be? Knowing these things can sort of help us figure out what kind of sleep and how we can get that deeper sleep. Because if we go to bed at 10 and because we think like, oh, we need 8 hours sleep and I need to be up at 6, and you don't want to go to bed until your body doesn't want to sleep until midnight. It's probably best to not go to sleep until midnight, even though you're only getting 6 hours sleep maybe, than to be wasting those 2 hours and trying to go to sleep for those 2 hours. I think that's quite hard. The other one is to notice that as we age, as we move through life, through monthly patterns, through monthly cycles, through stresses in our lives, through relaxation in our lives, sleep varies a lot. How much sleep we want, quality of our sleep varies. So just because you're used to 8 hours sleep most of the time, you might find that there's periods, 2 or 3 days, where you sleep a lot more, sleep a lot less. That's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. Again, normal sleep is a very broad term, and it's very easy to sort of paint ourselves into a corner with sleep of thinking, well, it's got to be this, or it's got to be that, or it's got to be the other. Finally, I would say, with everything, experiment, because I can't give anybody answers. I can't, I've spent a long time searching for my own answers with this. And I would probably say that the best thing that I've ever done for making my sleep better is to experiment, to see, well, what time do I best want to go to sleep? What time do I naturally want to wake up? You can even experiment with like supplements. If anybody wants to talk about those at the end, we can talk about those at the end. I think things like magnesium is always very good for spraying on the skin to help sleep. And basically, I think the other thing is to not try and fit in with other people's patterns too much, because I think we're all very individual. And I know sometimes we have to fit in with patterns. But realizing that maybe those patterns are part of the problem, and it's rarely us that's wrong. As humans, we've been around for almost 1 million years, and we've become very good at doing what we do. Most of the times when we feel like there's something wrong with us, wrong with us. It's actually not wrong with us. It's wrong with the system that we exist within nowadays, that we've evolved into. This idea of getting up at a certain time, going to bed at a certain time, those kind of things, those systems don't work for everybody. And I would encourage you to find out what systems work for you and to do the best that you can to make your life work around how best works for you. It's not always easy, but it's something well worth doing. From an anxiety perspective, because that's the other part of this, anxiety and sleep kind of sort of come hand in hand in this. I think yoga has a lot of techniques for anti-anxiety, for releasing anxiety, and we're going to be playing with these today. If at any point you feel like, I'm feeling like this is too much for me, just do whatever feels good. Again, don't feel like you have to do something. This is all an invitation. And we're going to start off with breath practice, because I think breath practice is one of the best options for grounding and for getting into our own body. This is going to be an experiential part of a couple of hours, so I encourage you to play along rather than just watch. But if you're somebody who just likes to watch, that's okay too. But it is going to be something that you're going to get the most out of if you play along. So let's get comfortable and let's start off with some breath practices. Now I'm going to be sitting up for this because otherwise I'm going to disappear into like a plane on the floor. Like that doesn't kind of like make for much of a video. But you can lie down, you can lie on your side, lie on your front, lie on your back, legs up the wall, whatever feels good here. And we're going to start off with box breath. Simplest version of breathing. This has been around for documented for thousands of years, and it's been used by things like divers and triathletes and special forces, and all these kind of people use this as a way to calm down and come back into the body. This is one of the simplest practices. Let's start off with a count of 5. And the box is, you inhale for 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Hold the breath for 5. 2, 3, 4, 5. Exhale for 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then hold and then exhale for 5. 2, 3, 4, 5. And then you start off again. Inhale for 5. Hold the breath for 5. Exhale for 5. Hold on the exhale for 5. And you're making a box. There is another version of this, because if you feel like holding your breath for that 5 seconds, holding on that exhale for 5 feels like, I don't like this. And a lot of people don't. About half the people don't like that holding on the exhale. You can turn this into a triangle breath where you inhale for 5, hold for 5, exhale for 5, and then you start breathing again. So you can choose box breath, which is the 4-sided one, or triangle breath, which is the 3-sided one where you ignore the hold on the exhale. So pick whichever one works for you, you feel works for you. You can experiment with one or the other, maybe find, I prefer this over the other one. As you're doing this, notice the thoughts that might come up. Probably one thought that comes up quite often is, am I doing this right? Of course you are. You're breathing. Of course you're doing it right. If it's not actually 5, count 5, maybe it's 4, or maybe you're not getting, they're not actually even, doesn't matter. Find a pattern that works for you. This idea of it being a certain number of counts and a certain number of ways, it's very generic. Make it work for you. The other thing that you might notice with breath practices is that you start to tense up in various areas because it's that focus, that concentration of like, I I need to focus on this breath thing. Let the shoulders relax, let the face relax. If you're clenching your teeth, like those relax. Physically, a couple of things that you can do. If you're sitting upright, make sure that your sit bones are nice and on the ground. If you're sitting upright, that your chest is a little bit elevated, that kind of helps. Don't have to be like still. You can move around if you feel like, oh, I'm not comfortable. Find a comfortable spot. This isn't meditation. It's not like we're sitting here still and trying to ignore itchy noses or whatever. You can deal with the things that come into play. On a more mental level, this is a great time to maybe let the thoughts go through the mind. That thing that I've got to do later on. Oh, yeah, that's the thing. And let it pass through. And then let whatever other thoughts come up. And maybe that passes through. And then maybe you're like, oh, I didn't think about anything for a second or two. You let that flow through too. There's no good thoughts, there's no bad thoughts. They're all just thoughts. And sort of not letting ourselves get caught up on any of them is a really good idea, though. And if you're somebody that really likes to analyze your breath, then a really fun thing to do with this is to be paying attention to the last 10% of the inhale. So when you're kind of like, if you're counting to 5, that like thing that happens maybe on that 5th count, and what happens on that 5th count of the exhale. Interesting things happen physiologically there. Blood chemistry changes a little bit. And another physical thing that I think is handy with breath practices is sometimes an idea of using them to ground as well. And sometimes if the world feels like it's moving a lot, or things are moving, there's a lot of thoughts, maybe sometimes even bringing the hands onto the ground and feeling the solidity of the ground. When I've been in very anxious states, another phrase that I feel like works quite well, and these are phrases that I say to myself. I wouldn't call them mantras or anything like that. They're just phrases that come in. Is I am safe. Start to slowly deepen your breath. Turn the breath to normal. Maybe moving a little bit. It's always kind of nice to move a little bit after doing some breath practices. Again, this isn't meditation where we have to sit for hours upon end in the same position. It's kind of nice to move around a little bit. Another breath practice that changes our physiology a lot is lion's breath. And for a long time in yoga, in rooms, we didn't used to do lion's breath because of this thing called COVID. But now we can kind of like sort of do it because, I think the risks are there a lot less, and there's those aspects of it. Lion's breath is a great way of loosening the face, the jaw, the throat, the chest area. We don't just do it because it's like fun to roar. Well, I think it's fun to roar anyway, but we don't just do it because of that. There's this idea of a release that comes from it. It's almost like a scream. It's almost like it's very primal, and it can be a lot of fun. I understand that it's not for everybody, so that you can always lion's breath in a various kind of ways. I mean, I see people when they first come to a class and you say lion's breath, you take a big breath in, and then you say roar and stick your tongue out, and they're like, well, that's okay. You can do that. That's perfectly fine. There's nothing wrong with it. It's doing the same thing. Then people really get into it. They really like doing it. They lift their chest up, take a huge breath in, and then you get to choose. Let's do 3 lion's breaths. If they're small, that's fine. If they're huge, that's great. Pick whichever one works for you. Doesn't matter if you're being loud. Doesn't matter if somebody thinks it's not a bit weird. It's not a bit odd. We're entertaining other people. That's kind of cool. So I'm going to do 3 here. The thing is with this is to big breath into the belly. Feel for the belly lifting up. Lift the chest up so you're making room for everything to go down. And then breath out through the mouth, sticking the tongue out. Maybe coming into a forward bend if forward bends are your thing. And then you repeat. Chest up, belly out, huge breath in. One more. There we go. Take another deep breath in. Come back into yourself. Come back into this idea of where you are, your space, and your breath. The idea of lion's breath is less something that you do all the time and more something that really just changes state. So we're feeling small or feeling down or feeling kind of like, compressed in. This lets us kind of open up. And you can open up big or you can open up small. It's all okay. There's no judgment on how much lion's breath you do or how big your lion breath is. Nobody worries about that. It's about your own experience in it and being happy to express yourself in that way that you express yourself. The final version of breath practice that I think is quite powerful for anxiety specifically is the very, very simple inhale for as long as is interesting, hold the breath for as long as it's interesting, and exhale for as long as it's interesting. It's a little bit different to the box breath because with the box breath, most people's eyes or their mind goes around this box or around this triangle. Whereas with inhale, hold, exhale, really it's about this internal experience. So it moves it from almost this geometric experience that we have of like, I've got to like inhale for a certain amount and hold for the same amount and exhale. And then it brings it into the internal. And this is a nice one to do lying down because when you're lying down, your whole sort of geometry and how you breathe and how you kind of like your breathing mechanisms work changes. So, and this is a great one to help fall asleep too. I use this one a lot, so I'm going to lie down for this one. I'm going to try not to fall asleep. Somebody prod me if I fall asleep. First thing you're going to do if you are lying down is that you want to get comfortable. Again, this isn't meditation where you got itches or you're uncomfortable and you have to sit through it. No. We were given the ability to scratch itches and to wiggle around because it's a good thing to do it. So I'm going to get all comfortable here. Feel for being broad across the chest. Let the shoulder blades sink into the ground. Let your elbows sink into the ground. Your hands sink into the ground. And your wrists sink into the ground. Get your joints in a place that feel comfortable. We'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute, but find a place that, especially if you're lying down, that feels comfortable. You can do this sitting up. You could do this with your back against the wall. You could do this with legs up the wall. And then what we're going to do is very simple, almost like box breath, but without the kind of constraints of any of this. We're going to take a big breath in. You're going to hold the breath for as long as it's interesting. And then you're going to exhale for as long as it's interesting. Inhale for as long as it's interesting. Hold the breath for as long as it's interesting. Exhale for as long as it's interesting. And repeat. Again, with this, gently notice if there's places where you start to clench, clenching the jaw, clenching the teeth, maybe scrunching up your eyes. If at any point you sort of realize that you've lost this inhale, hold, exhale thing, and your breath is just sort of doing whatever it wants to do, that's okay. Just come back to the breath practice again. And maybe even notice that that spot at which you sort of shifted into your normal breath might have been a spot where you were getting close to sort of down regulating to maybe sort of like shifting into that, maybe not sleep, but that's those sort of layers just before sleep. Because you're not going to carry on doing the inhale, hold, exhale while you're sleeping. Your breath pattern's going to automatically come to normal. Feel for your limbs getting a little bit heavier. Feel for yourself gently, almost sinking a little bit deeper into the mat. Feeling your muscles softening with every inhale and every exhale. And you can also let what is interesting for how long you inhale, how long you hold the inhale, and how long you exhale for be very variable. Usually when we start these things off, we want to like start breaking world records, and then start it becomes like, oh, how relaxing can I make this feel? Or how down regulating can I make this feel? Or how quiet can I make this feel? Or even how loud can I make this feel? So you feel free to play with this in a way that you can personalize it for yourself, your own experiences. Slowly start to deepen your breath. Maybe gently moving your hands and your feet. If your eyes are closed, slowly flutter them open. You feel like yawning? Yawning's a good thing. Yawn away. If you're lying on your back, roll onto maybe your favorite side. I'm going to be saying favorite side a lot probably when we're kind of doing any kind of lying down today. And then come back up to a seated position. And return to your normal breath practice, normal breath patterns. Not even yoga breath, just normal breath for this point.